Hey guys, Mario here from the 14th World Wushu Championships in Kazan, Russia. I'm here with Alan Tang from Canada. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube at user IWUF Wushu. And Field of Play 1, you can see men's Jianshu and women's Taijiquan. And then in our Field of Play, you can see women's Nanquan and men's Nanquan. And of course, you can check us out on Instagram on all our usual feeds. But be sure we're going to be going live here in 15 to 20 minutes. So make sure you check us out. You can hear our commentary. And of course, anything you'd like us to say, any shout outs. We're going to be watching on the live YouTube feed, so just comment in the comment section. All right, see you guys in a few minutes.
Those two mascots. Shit disturbers.
That's how you know it's
Beauty.
good. That's how you know it's good. That's how it keeps you up. Or do you think all the judges are giving the same little briefcases? It looks like they all have the same one.
Maybe.
Right?
Yep, I think so. Yeah. To make it look pro, eh? There's a gun inside.
Hefner passed away?
Yeah.
Sad.
And he's buried beside Marilyn Monroe. Isn't that ironic, eh? He paid back in 01.
Дорогие гости нашего центра внимания, сегодня здравствуйте, говорим вам добрый день, давайте поаплодируем сами себе, классно, что вы воскресным днем не отсыпаетесь, как вы занимаетесь домашним делами, пришли к нам. Окей, вот сейчас обычно всегда делаю перекличку, сейчас поаплодируйте тем, кто первый раз пришел на Wushu. Естественно, вас немало, а теперь поаплодируйте тем, кто любит Wushu, разбирается уже и, возможно, даже занимается. Вот классно, наверное, для тех, такая небольшая справочка, для тех, кто в первый раз к нам пришел, объяснять, чем отличается между собой Wushu. Есть сайта, он там, вот, как там, грубо говоря, по-русски, там дерутся. Здесь же все красиво, и Таolu, который вы сейчас увидите, сродни художественной гимнастики, акробатики, даже вот как-то так. Ну что ж, очень простая такая вещь сейчас. Значит, раз, два, три, попрошу всех мужчин, так вот, немногочисленных вискобасов, так сказать. О, только мужчины. Давайте, раз, два, три. Вон там вот парень сидит лет 10, вот он громче всех кричал. Ну окей, сейчас только девушки. Так же, 3, 2, 1, и так вы вот так вот. Давайте, только девушки. Раз, два, три. Здорово, похлопаем. Все, видите, сразу посмотрите. Классненько. А теперь все вместе кричим и аплодируем. Вместе. Давайте. Раз, два, три. Ну, неплохо. Окей. Давайте такая финалочка, разминочка ваших аплодисментов. Просто поделим. Вот вы, соответственно, трибуна раз. Вот вы, трибуна два. Я показываю на каждую трибуну и аплодируете только вы одним хлопком. Давайте попробуем. Аплодируйте вы один хлопок. Один. Ну окей, теперь вы. Один. Давайте, вы. Теперь быстрее, вы еще включи, погромче. Вот, класс. Вот, совершайте теперь самое главное, давай вместе с тобой. Мы отправим твою очаровательную улыбочку всем. Давай, хоп. И все улыбаемся, давайте, раз, два, три, вот, классненько. Вот, улыбаемся совсем скоро, мы начинаем к помощи а пока поаплодируешь нашему красивому символу нашего 14-чемпионата мира. коллеги, у нас готово. Давайте сначала такой. Поаплодируем нашим судьям. Applause for the judges. This applause for you, guys.
Looks like Russia dropped out of Nangun. Yeah. Yeah, I just got the notice.
Считаете ли вы по праву, что Казань называют одним из самых гостеприимных городов России? Да или нет? Да, действительно, давайте самим себе. А вы поаплодируйте Казанцы. Есть? Неплохо. А те, кто специально приехал в город на наш чемпионат? О, у вас даже больше, класс! Но, тем не менее, я сделал обращение для наших спортсменов и для наших гостей, в том числе вы самим себе. Поэтому просьба, поднимите обе ручки наверх. Все. Обе ручки наверх. И теперь отрепетируем. Начинаем размахивать ими вот туда. То есть для вас это будет направо. Вот туда. Давайте. Туда. Все, класс. Опустили ручки. И чтобы всем было понятно и нашим прежним гостям, и спортсменам, можно говорить фразу «Welcome to Kazan». То есть делать это вот так вот. Welcome to Kazan. Давайте попробуем покричать погромче, чтобы все слышали. Давайте. Раз, два, три. Нет, пока без рук, просто репетируем. Давай, 3, 4. Welcome. Громче. Еще раз. Вы классные. А теперь уже с ручками подняли ручки наверх. Обе начинаем в ту сторону. И надо будет 4 раза вот это вот welcome сказать. Начинаем с правой стороны. 3, 4. Welcome. Громче. Welcome. Еще. И последний. И громче. Классненько. Все. А теперь мы это закрепим финальной волной. Давайте, окей? Вы меня видите? Я смотрю. Класс. Вы понимаете меня? Все, окей. На русском, на английском. На русском сойдет. Я считаю 3, 2, 1, вы встаете, и мы отправим вот волну туда. И на этом мы скажем, поехали, готовы? Так и не подведите эту очаровательную девушку, пожалуйста. Знаете, раз, два, три, встаем и отправляемся на маршрут туда. Стоп. Они не хорошие, они вас подвели, так вообще делать нельзя. Последний шанс мы вам даем. Давайте, раз, два, три, встаем и все вместе отправляемся в Казань! Давай! Все, больше вас я отвлекаю. Лично я вам аплодирую, если вы мне не поаплодируете, будет тоже классно. Желаю вам приятного зрелища, а мы теперь сами себе будем классные.
Well, they do say that time flies when you're having fun, and we have already reached the 3rd day of competition here at the 14th edition of the World Wushu Championships that are thrilling crowds inside the Gymnastics Palace. My name is Mario Martinez, your commentator for the action, coming from one of the 2 Taolu mats that are being used simultaneously here. Alongside me, I have Wushu Canada aficionado and great friend Alan Tang. Great to be back with you, Alan. What do we have in store for today?
Hi, good afternoon, Mario, here in Kazan, Russia, and to those back home, where it's still early in the morning. We have on floor 2 of the World Wushu Championships, the Taolu events, and this morning we're starting off with women's Nangun, or Southern Staff. Following that, in our floor, we will have the men's Nanquan Southern Staff event. And across from us, our fellow commentators are viewing the men's Jianshu, or straight sword, and as well the women's Taijiquan, or Tai Chi hand form event.
Now it looks like the judges are coming in. We have the athletes lined up. We have a field of 12 competitors. Of course, we have the top competitors from the women's Nanquan event. Some of the key standouts that you should look out for is, of course, Tatiana Evshina from Russia, our silver medalist for women's Nanquan, and from Hong Kong, Jianshu.
She's up first today on the start list, and as well a few other strong contenders will obviously be the Malaysian athlete Cham Min Tian, in addition to a few strong athletes from Vietnam, Iran, and Indonesia. Here we are introducing the official judges and as well the chief of referees.
The United States of America. Assistant Chief Referee.
Now, Alan, it's going to be interesting to see if we see some of the similar type of judging calls that we saw yesterday in men's Nangun. A lot of, seemed like a lot of the top competitors came down to that overall performance score, which is the B score. And it looked like a lot of athletes were really trying to push their speed and overall power and ended up getting a couple of deductions by letting go of their weapon. I wonder if we'll see some of that today.
That's right. When you hit the high performance competition circuit, obviously, no matter how experienced these athletes are, there's always nerves and your adrenaline coming into play. And what we saw yesterday is, especially in the southern events, the judges really cracking down on the requirements of the butterfly stance, where they're looking for that back heel to be down upon completion of the difficulty components. A few other things that they were looking for is obviously the height of the kicks and the jump kicks of the athletes. The Nanquan, or the Southern Staff, is a part of the repertoire of the 3 Southern events, being the long weapon, the Nandao being the short weapon, and of course Nantren being the bare hand routine. I don't know, Mario. We have a short list of competitors here. Typically, the southern events having less competition than the northern events. However, witnessing the men's Nantren yesterday, we had a formidable group of athletes, and they were simply impeccable in terms of their performance.
Yeah, it looks like similarly we have a very strong field of men's Nantron competitors following the Nangun event. We've got roughly 57 athletes competing. It's definitely a significant rise from previous championships.
That's right, and yesterday in the Nangun, we witnessed that even in the top 12 placements, that it was very, very close scoring, and relatively speaking, there were minimal Group A judging deductions, and most of them were able to fully complete their Group C difficulties. And as you mentioned earlier, it really came down to their performance in terms of speed, strength, expression, and detail in choreography.
That's right, and if this is the first time watching Wushu, the way that Taolu is judged is there are 3 categories of judges. There are 3 A judges, 3 B judges, and 3 C judges. The A judges are looking for technical deductions, so movements that are done incorrectly. There are specific requirements for difficulty movements, the kicking leg height, different movement requirements.
And as well, they're deducting for loss of balance.
Right.
And what we saw yesterday is if you make mistakes with your apparatus, for example, letting it go or mishandling it, that is all Group A judges' responsibility to deduct.
Yep.
Whereas in Group C, we'll skip Group B for a bit. Group C is the difficulty component comprised of movements that make up a score of 2.0 at maximum, and the judges are deducting it based on whether or not the athlete is completing those difficulty requirements. Then obviously Group B, Mario.
Yeah, so the overall B is the overall performance, so the emphasis on power, strength, emphasizing that their overall choreography and their routine is fully encompassing of that style or the techniques of that specific weapon. And what we saw yesterday is that it was really coming down to that B. I mean, at this caliber athlete, they pretty much were able to successfully execute without, the top 5 were able to execute without getting those technical deductions and completing their difficulty movements. So it really comes down to that overall B. You'll want to see in this particular event, athletes beginning strong and then proceeding throughout their entire routine, emphasizing power, strength, speed, technical prowess, and then of course demonstrating that physical ability to endure the entire form with that high level.
That's right, and in Wushu Taolu routines, typically the routine has a minimum requirement of 1 minute and 20 seconds. Usual choreography will bring it up to approximately 1 minute and 30 seconds. And to complete that entire routine with full endurance, strength, and speed is a very difficult task. So you'll see in the top athletes that they're really able to push their physical limits to that extent, and you are really looking for them to have a strong routine from beginning to end. And we're just about to begin with one of our top athletes in this field. This is the athlete from Hong Kong, Jianshu, performing in the women's Nangun, or Southern Staff routine. Here she is, preparing for her opening sequence. A back tuck into a double butterfly stance, leading into her outside 540-degree rotation kick and inside 540-degree rotation, followed by a 360-degree combination of both outside and inside jumping crescent kicks. So there you'll witness that upon an athlete's completion of her difficulty component, you'll see typically the higher ranked athletes and more experienced athletes actually over-rotating the requirement to ensure that the judges are seeing the completion of their difficulty component and not deducting for under-rotation.
Yeah, something that we saw frequently occurring yesterday throughout the men's Southern events was a lot of deductions for that butterfly stance. The key thing is you want that knee bent, that leg completely flush with the ground. Specifically, the heel must be touching the ground. We saw a couple of athletes take some of those deductions, which really pushed them down in the standings.
And why that is so difficult is really has to deal with both flexibility and as well stability in your landing. So that was our athlete from Hong Kong, Jianshu. Very strong performance.
There we see her opening sequence, very strong.
Combination of strikes and blocks using her weapon. That's an outside kick followed by an inside kick, 360 degrees. You see the butterfly stance, landing with her heels flat down. The inside drop kick. As she awaits her final score.
Final score 9.62.
9.62. So as we see, she had no deductions in her Group A or Group C requirements. And you'll see that from most of the top athletes that we expect.
Yeah, it's a really strong score. I believe some of the top athletes that we saw scoring were above 9.6s yesterday. We'll have to see how the rankings end up today, but that's a very strong start.
Next, we have the Malaysian athlete, Changmin Tian. Yesterday having a very strong performance as well. And we expect her to be one of the contenders in this event. Again, this is the female Nangun Southern Staff Taolu competition. And you see the strength and the clarity in her first opening sequence, leading into a back tuck, single leg butterfly stance landing, a very strong 540-degree outside kick, followed by a 540-degree inside kick. And I expect two 360-degree kicks to complete her difficulty requirements.
Jump inside 360 into that butterfly stance.
And you see how they emphasize the good athletes how close that heel is on the ground to ensure that the judges are not going to deduct her double strike and block combination, which is a compulsory component, along with her empty stance, overhead strike, her inside drop. And yesterday in the men's competition, we saw several athletes lose control of their weapon during that move. There we have it. That is Changmin Tan from Malaysia.
Solid overall performance. Again, you'll start to see the top athletes really edge out towards the end of their routine. That's where they really start to lose gas. And if they want to end in a podium finish, that's where they really have to emphasize that strength and power.
And I think she displayed her difficulties very well. Not easy completing that 540-degree rotation. And her final score is 9.59. Currently placing her in second.
And our next competitor from the United States is Lucy Lee.
This is Lucy's second World Championship. Is that correct, Mario?
That's right. Wushu is a family affair. In her household, her sister is also a U.S. team member, Mia Tien.
And you see her coach, Eugene, looking on from the background. Do you think it's more nervous for the coach watching than it is for the athlete?
I can tell you from personal experience, and I know from your personal experience as well, it definitely is a lot more nerve-wracking being on the sidelines. There we see Lucy execute a jump front kick with a 180-degree turn to a single leg balance.
A little wobble on both her landings there. And really, like you saw the outside 360-degree kick. What the athletes are trying to do is jump upward and focus all their power into their jump rather than on distance, in an attempt to try to attain maximum height for their jump kick.
Yeah, it's a really difficult technique. You have to be able to kick. The requirement is minimum of shoulder level, so it needs to reach that height. But to the same extent, you must land on the same kicking foot and then maintain your balance upon the landing with no additional support or no swaying or obvious misbalance. Yeah.
As she finishes her routine here. And what you'll notice if you watch both the southern and the northern staff or cudgel, the southern staff typically has a bit more weight and substance to it, emphasizing on broad strikes and very powerful short defensive blocks. Whereas the northern staff is more about the speed and the quick maneuvers. We await the final score for Lucy Lee. And her final score is 9.15. So we saw that deduction there for her balance in her difficulty. She did not receive the landing score due to the wobble, and as well 2 deductions, one for
kicking below shoulder level and then a loss of balance, likely from that kick.
That's right.
Again, that still places her in third with a 9.15. We still have quite a few competitors lined up.
And next up will be Truc Nguyen from Vietnam.
Now, and it looks like we have a couple of athletes drop from this event. We'll have to see if there was some change in order, but it looks like Ukraine and China and Russia have tapped out of this event.
That's right, and it could be always due to whether it's injury or usually in China's cases, is that they send athletes to all three events, but upon doing well in one event, they would typically forfeit the other two events. And that's simply due to the strength of their athletes. There's a single front snap kick into a balance, followed by inside 360-degree kick. Some of the required blocks and strikes using the staff. That's a front push strike, followed by the inside drop. And you'll see on that drop, again, emphasizing yesterday in the men's Nangun, is the athlete really wants to have control of that landing. Whether in the choreography, you can design it so that you have immediately a transitional movement to, so to speak, hide the bounce. But if you're trying to stick that landing, you really want to land flush on that ground.
There we see her jump inside 540, a little bit of over rotation, slight lean.
And you saw the lean, what that led to was a little sway of the upper body, and we'll have to see whether or not the judges deduct for that. And it might be obvious to those watching on camera or for us watching from where we are at, but not necessarily for the judges at all times, because in the judging format, it's not only about the athlete's performance, but whether or not the majority of that panel of judges being able to catch that one deduction.
And Truc Nguyen's final score, 9.23. We see a deduction for a loss of balance, that butterfly stance, the heel coming up, and it looks like a connection move was removed. Or a difficulty. We only see a 1.85 for that Group C score out of a total possible 2.0.
So that transition could have possibly been a value of 0.1 or 0.15 that was deducted. And next we have our Iranian athlete. Very strong team, and as well, very strong athletes in their Taolu events. But we know yesterday Nahid had a couple of mishaps on her routine. Hopefully she does better today. So a little low on that back tuck there. Gave her a bit of problem on that landing. Trying to complete that 180-degree front jump kick. And
now, one thing that you'll want to notice on those balances, Alan, they really need to hold those for a minimum of 2 seconds at least. And it looks like Nahid was a little bit shy on those movements.
That's right. You either hold them for a complete 2 seconds, or you have to make it unquestionable for the judges that you nailed that balance. But very powerful in her fundamental movements. Those are 2 side blocks followed by 2 downward strikes. So we'll have to see here. I know from our perspective, she had a little bit of trouble. You see on that back tuck, just a little bit low in terms of the height.
Here's that jump front kick.
And just barely catching that balance. So we'll have to see whether or not she gets deducted for that difficulty transition. Her coach giving her some encouragement on the sidelines as she awaits her score. I believe Nahid is one of the newer athletes on this Iranian team. And her final score is 9.22. So having a deduction for that back heel, and as well, I believe for those two transitions, she did get deducted for incompletion.
And our next competitor is from Indonesia, Juwita Wazni. And of course, Juwita is our 13th World Wushu Championships gold medalist in Nandao, Nangun, and bronze medalist in Nanquan.
A very athletic athlete. You'll see she is one of the few female Southern-style competitors who places a lot of emphasis on her difficulty components. She is one of the few who completes, I know, that inside crescent front gainer combination. Here she sets up for a 540-degree rotation and a back tuck into butterfly stance.
Final score 8.92.
And a gainer into a double butterfly you see there.
Very difficult combination to execute.
But it seems she's having a little more trouble today than yesterday in getting the rotation on her outside jump kick. You see quite a bit of lateral movement, whereas, as I mentioned before, you're looking for the height on those kicks. But nevertheless, she hit those landings. And that's what the athlete must really consider in terms of their endurance versus difficulty. How much energy they have to extenuate in order to complete the routine. The final combination.
Here we see that jump outside.
And obviously, in comparison to their bare hand routine, holding the apparatus and completing these difficulties is just that much more difficult.
And Juwita anxiously awaiting the judges' score. Definitely a strong competitor. I think she's got a chance to break into that top three.
And obviously, that consideration for the level of difficulty in her routine will play a part in terms of her B score, where the judges are looking for that overall choreography. And her final score is 9.60, placing her into the silver medal position at the current time. So a very, very strong score.
And our next competitor is from Brazil, Marcela Palastri.
And that's where you're looking at the difference when comparing the top few competitors in that B score is their endurance from beginning to end of the routine, and the clarity and the strength of their strikes and blocks, and whether they're able to depict the application of the weapon. in their routine. Strong start by Marcella into her first difficulty, which is a 360-degree rotation.
She sets up for her jump front kick, 180.
So you'll see that some of the athletes opt to do the 180-degree rotations, but the difficulty amongst them is really landing on that single leg. But that is where their strength may be more in balance as opposed to height or rotation in their jumping repertoire. Some strong basic skills. Upward strike, and side block, followed by a inward downward strike. That was Marcela Teresa from Brazil here in the women's Nangun Taolu event.
There we see that jump front, 180.
So as you saw was that front jump kick. We'll have to see if the judges saw whether or not that her foot was over her shoulder height.
Final score 9.21.
And the final score 9.21. So you did see that she was deducted for her butterfly stance.
Looks like there was a loss of balance, likely from that jump front kick, single leg balance. And up next, we have a competitor from Japan, Misaki Saka, who was a gold medalist in women's Nangun at the 12th World Wushu Championships.
Final score 8.58. Athlete number 9 into the arena.
There we see Misaki execute a jump inside 540 into that butterfly stance. Jump front kick into a single leg balance. Strong landing so far.
And you see the choreography, as many athletes opt to do, is to complete the majority of their difficulty components in their first section of play. But as well, the requirement is that you cannot have more than 2 consecutive sections of your routine without a difficulty. So that's where in the third section, you'll see many of the athletes opt to put that final inside drop kick in their southern routines. It's one of the strategies in order for them to maintain their endurance till the end of the routine, but yet meeting the requirements of having a difficulty in at least, having a difficulty in more than 2 sections of the routine.
And that was Misaki Saka from Japan. We're coming up on our final women's Nangun competitor. There you see Misaki's jump inside to jump front kick with a single leg balance. Overall strong performance, but again, at this caliber, it really looks like it's coming down to that Group B, the overall performance.
And her final score is 9.0. Good enough for 8th place.
Looks like she was able to get all of her points for Group A. No technical deductions, but her overall Group C had a couple of deductions in some of her jumps, particularly her first jump, and then a subsequent connection move. So an overall score of 1.45 out of a potential 2.0.
I believe for her connection move, the judges just thought it was not long enough for her single leg balance.
And here we have a competitor from Australia who is our final competitor in this event, Elizabeth Lim. And of course, if you're watching us live on YouTube, you can also follow us on our social media feeds. We'll be posting short clips, pictures, interviews on our Instagram page, which is IWUF_official. You can also follow us on Facebook at International Wushu Federation IWF Official. And of course, you can continue watching us live for the remainder of the week, for the remainder of events, at IWF Wushu on YouTube.
That's right, we're live here at the 14th World Wushu Championships in Kazan, Russia. I'm commentating with Mario Martinez, and I'm Alan Tang from Wushu Canada, and we're witnessing the women's Nangun event, which is just about completed, but we will be following this with the men's Nanquan Southern Fist event. As we see, the men's competitors are lining up in their starting grid, and we will begin that momentarily. Join us on the live feed at YouTube channel IWUF space Wushu.
Elizabeth Lim's final score, 8.05. Looks like there is a deduction for a loss of balance, a butterfly stance, and then a series of missed difficulty movements.
And those difficulty movements mainly for under rotation and as well not completing the required stable landings in her routine. Here it is, our chief judge is welcoming in the men's Nanquan group of athletes. This is in part. The total field today in the men's event is 59, I believe, 57 athletes. So a very, very strong group of athletes as we saw yesterday in the Nangun event. But in men's Nanquan, typically it's even more competitive. You'll see, I believe, some more difficult Group C components. Yesterday, we saw several athletes completing 720-degree rotations on their inside jump kick and outside jump kicks. And some might wonder why. Why is there such an immense amount of stress on Group C difficulties, Mario?
You know, a lot of these athletes are very seasoned competitors and they've competed nationally and internationally, but at this stage of the game, it is really a lot more pressure. That's where really experience comes into play. A lot of those difficulty techniques require a lot of technical and physical prowess to be able to execute, and to be able to put all of that together under this stage is extremely difficult.
That's right, and it's often said that anyone can do a jump kick, but in order to challenge the athletes at a high-performance competition, you're really asking them, can you kick after doing 2 or 3 rotations?
That's right.
Here we're standing by for our first athletes, which will be Tiomen Malkoff from France. And join us on YouTube as we have our live feed of this 14th World Wushu Championships here in Kazan, Russia. Typically in the opening sequence, you'll see some of the basic strikes, blocks, stances, setting up for the first difficulty. As a outside 540-degree rotation, followed by inside 540-degree rotation. And you'll see the requirement of that is really landing on both feet at the same time with good balance. There you saw a little bit of a mishap. Dan, I believe you were supposed to land on a single leg leading up to the transitional front jump kick. We witnessed yesterday in the men's Southern Division that more likely than not, you're going to have at least 12 of this field really contending for those 3 medals. Very strong group of athletes.
Yeah, what you're looking in those top 8 competitors is really the overall package, making sure that you have that technical score. But again, what we saw time and time again throughout the podium finishers was that ability to execute from beginning to ending, emphasizing power and speed, and then still showing that technical prowess that's required.
So definitely there'll be a few deductions in Thielmann's difficulty components. We saw here, he landed on one leg first, so I'm not sure that he's going to get that difficulty component. And there you saw he put his left leg down on that transition. There was additional support in that landing there.
Yeah, and as we saw yesterday, Alan, that hand down is really costing athletes a significant point value. As we know, once multiple parts of your body touches the ground, it's considered a fall, which is considered a 0.3 deduction.
That's right. And when you add up the overall value of that difficulty, it's not only the fact that you're missing the difficulty, but more likely than not, that you'll be deducted on both your A component and as well your impression score. So missing one difficulty will really reflect upon your score at the end. Across from us in floor number 1, you'll see on the second YouTube channel, currently is the men's Jianshu competition. And you hear the crowd roaring as a hometown athlete from Russia, Pavel Muratov, is competing.
Thielmann's final score, 8.15, and there we see a series of deductions, kicking below shoulder level, at least 3 loss of balances, 1 for his heel being up. And it looks like he only took a 0.2 deduction for 1 putting a hands down.
Next up, we have athlete from Vietnam. This is Quoc Con Pham. And I remember yesterday in the men's Nangun division, one of the Vietnamese athletes actually broke his apparatus.
That was quite a feat.
So hopefully they'll redeem themselves a little bit today in the men's barehand event. Very strong outside 540 kick. There's that front combination into a gainer, or one-legged somersault, as they like to call it.
And Alan, we're seeing what we saw yesterday, which is quite interesting, was athletes doing that jump inside kick on the opposite leg.
That's right. In order for them to be able to throw that right leg up for that front somersault, some opt to reverse that inside jump kick. Very strong hand movements, showing the blocks and strikes of the Southern style of the Chinese martial arts. And you can say that the Southern Fist represents quite a bit more of the traditional Chinese martial arts, commonly known as Kung Fu. You'll see some of those crane movements, the tiger movement, some of those traditional footwork in the cross stances.
Really strong performance for Quoc Pham. Again, we've got quite a field of competitors, so we'll have to see how his scores stand up. There we see him executing a jump outside.
Final score 9.66.
Very strong score of 9.66 for Quoc Con Pham of Vietnam. I think that more than made up for his mishap yesterday, but not really his fault in his part. Just too strong that he snapped his weapon in half. Next up, we have Dmitry Tianov from Russia.
And as you can hear from the crowds, definitely a national favorite.
A back whip kick in his first combination, leading up to the first difficulty component, which is a 540-degree outside kick into a front somersault or gainer, landing in single leg butterfly stance, and a 540-degree inside jump kick into single leg butterfly, and into a back tuck into a single butterfly stance. So very strong difficulty components. But what you'll see in comparison to the Vietnamese athlete, just a little bit slower in terms of the hand speed and the striking clarity in his movement. And that's what it might come down to for the judges when looking at this routine, is that B score. As we were talking about, so many of this field are just strong in terms of their technical components and their difficulty components, that it's going to come down to that impression of their application using these martial movements and the speed and accuracy of their technique. But a very, very strong routine by Dmitry Tianov from Russia.
Quite an exciting lineup so far, and we're only 3 in.
That's right, from a field of 47. Definitely one of the more exciting divisions to watch in this competition. And we know that in this field, if the athletes have any chance of medaling, they really need to get those 9 6s.
Final score, 9.62.
Very good score. Placing him slightly behind our Vietnamese counterpart. He is currently in second place with a 9.62. We'll see how that stands up as our field moves on. And next we have another very, very strong competitor from Japan. This is Ryuta Mori. Here we are on field of play number 2 in the men's Nanquan Southern Fist event. Competitor from Japan, Ryuta Mori, did very well yesterday in the men's Nangun event. There we have the back tuck into single butterfly stance landing. Setting up. Outside 540-degree jump kick, leading into an inside 540-degree butterfly stance landing, and completing the majority of his difficulty moves with a 360-degree kick. And you'll see the more seasoned athletes, as we see here, they're really emphasizing over rotation on their difficulty to ensure that the judges have no way of deducting them for that component.
That was a very difficult combination that he did previously, that front roll into jump inside 540, coming in from one immediately into the other. Whereas you'll see some athletes take a pause in order to ensure the execution of the movement. Our athlete here from Japan went directly into it. That should up his overall score just a little bit for raising that level of difficulty. I don't know, Alan, that looked very strong.
Very strong. And as we mentioned, you're looking at probably a good dozen athletes in this field that have the potential to challenge for that medal position.
Yeah, remember, we're still waiting for our gold, bronze, and silver medalists from the Nangun event. There we see that combo. There we see it. Ryota Mori, 9.60, good for third place. Perfect A score, perfect C score, overall B score of 2.60.
And from our experience yesterday, we know that if any athlete in this field wants a chance at a medal, they really got to place and score those 9.6s, which is phenomenal because even a 9.5 in competition is usually an amazing score. But just the strength of this field of 47 athletes, you really got to take your game up.
Yeah, you got to take those risks. Our next competitor is from Belgium, Olivier Clement.
And remember, to those viewers back home, please jump on to our YouTube channel to see our live feed at IWUF Space Wushu. Join myself and Mario here in Kazan, Russia at the 14th World Wushu Championships.
Saw a couple of stumbles on some of his difficulties. We'll have to see how the judges view it.
This is the men's Nanquan Southern Fist event, completing 6 of 47 athletes in this start list. Across from us, our counterparts are commentating the men's Jianshu event, or straight sword. This is the barehanded event in the Southern style. Typically, you're going to get the same group of competitors competing in the barehand routine, Nanquan, yesterday's Nangun, which is the Southern staff, and still to come, the Southern broadsword or Nandao event.
Olivier's final score, 7.35.
Athlete number 7 at the director.
And on the live chat on the YouTube channel, sending out a greetings again to Justina from the United States. I see her on board right now. Our next athlete from the Philippines. This is Thornton Cyan. Thornton Cyan is one of the top competitors at the 13th Wushu Championships. He's previously placed as high as 4th in traditional events, but let's see if he's able to finally start taking some steps up in the men's Nanquan event.
Really strong overall performance. Again, in this field, we've got some really strong competitors from all over the world. There we see that jump inside into the gainer butterfly. And his jump inside drop. Final score for Thornton, 9.52. We see one deduction in his technical score for his heel
stance
being up. Other than that, good solid score. Now here's a good chance of how that technical deduction can bring you down. He had an overall score of 2.62. That 0.1 deduction hurt him. That could have put him in the 9.62 contention.
So that's where you witness the importance of that score and the level of this field of competition, where the top athletes really have to nail down a perfect technical score and as well a perfect difficulty score in order to even be considered for that top, I would say, top 6 placement.
And our current competitor is from Turkey, Halil Kalesi.
Very, very high front somersault. And great height on that front inside 540 into a back tuck. That's what you like to see. There's very strong height on his difficulty component.
Lots of
there.
Power.
But again, the hard part, especially in the Southern style, is having the endurance to complete your whole routine with just as much power as you started with.
Yeah. Now here's where you really see the difference between those top 3 or top 5 is towards the tail end of the routine, where the athlete has to maintain that power continuity throughout their routine.
And where you'll see that is in the speed of this footwork, the exertion of force in the hands, the strikes. And as well in the expression of the athlete, whether or not they look drained or they look strong at the end of their routine.
And looking at our YouTube live chat, it looks like we've got some Mikel Giordano fans on A Clear Sky. Really huge height on that jump inside.
And of course, we at the booth have the benefit of slow motion replay. Awaiting the final score for Halil Kalasi from Turkey. And on deck, we have the silver medalist from yesterday's Nanquan event. This is Manhua Ho from Malaysia.
Final score, 9.64.
And the final score for our athlete from Turkey is 9.61. A very, very strong score.
Currently puts him in third place.
This is definitely a strong field of competitors. And let's just see how they challenge each other and raise their bar. Yesterday's silver medalist from Malaysia, Manhua Ho. Be sure to join us on our YouTube channel, IWUF space Wushu, and see live coverage of this event. Join us on the YouTube channel, and myself, Mario, we're commentating floor number 2 here for the Nanquan Taolu event, men's Nanquan, at the 14th World Wushu Championships. Inside 540.
Really strong control on that single leg landing.
Athlete number 19, enter the arena.
Now, of course, Manhua Ho is not shy to the podium. He's had finishes at the 13th, 12th, and 10th World Wushu Championships. He's had a total of 3 gold medals over those championships and 1 bronze. But again, in this field of multiple competitors, 57 in total, we'll have to see how the judges score this overall performance.
And I believe sometimes it's just going to come down to their choice of choreography, the level of difficulty that they implement into their routine. But great foundation work in the southern movements of striking and blocking. And you see, there's the final score for Manhua Ho is 9.54. A slight deduction that cost him 0.1, which was for his heel on that butterfly stance. And we move on to our next competitor, who is from Brazil. This is Marcelo Yamada. Did very well yesterday, placing 10th, I believe, in the men's Nanquan event. And we remember Marcelo has been a competitor for quite a number of years right now. And more recently, just I believe last year, he had a big injury to his, was it ACL?
Yeah, it was an ACL injury. It's amazing the amount of recovery and comeback that he's had.
And that serves as a podium finish on his own for an athlete to really break through, come back from an injury such as that, and still be able to compete at this world level.
Backflip into butterfly stance. Jump inside 540.
And that really is an indication of his tenacity to compete. You see a lot of athletes who come across injuries and just, so to speak, give up and don't continue their training for future competitions. But moving with that Olympic spirit, Marcelo has really turned up his training, really put a lot of physio and development into re-strengthening his knees, and has come back strong on the competition scene. And that is to speak in terms of the difficulty components in Wushu. It really takes a toll on that knee and the strength of the stances that are required, and the overall agility developed from Wushu Taolu training and competition.
And Alan, it looks like we've got quite a few fans for Marcelo on our YouTube page. Vitor Rosero, Reza Maceda, Ahong 2005, quite a few fans.
I wonder what time it is in Brazil.
In addition, we've got some Latvian fans, Danis Viskers. Shout out to Sonia Grindanu.
There we see Marcelo's inside 540 jump kick. Some great traditional Kung Fu combinations there, punches and strikes.
We'll have to see how the judges score.
Final score 9.33.
And a final score of 9.33. Very respectable score in this field of play. 2 deductions, however, for his slight sways. I believe those were taken after his landings on 2 of his difficulty components. Here we have our competitor from Greece.
Mohamed Roslin. Oh, I'm sorry. Panagiotis Velisariou.
From Greece.
And it looks like it's 9:30 in the morning in Brazil.
So good morning to you.
And good afternoon to Italy, Alessandro Citro.
Here in Russia, it's currently 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, where the Taolu afternoon session takes place. Over the first 4 days, they will all be afternoon sessions, and on the final day of competition, we will begin at 8:30 a.m. in unison with the Sanda finals. Don't be sure to not miss that. I think I'm going to catch some of the Sanda action tonight, Mario. It's day 3 of competition. You're seeing some of those athletes get closer and closer to the semi or quarter semifinals of that Sanda competition. Very exciting to watch. And for those of you who might not be familiar, Sanda is the combative component to Wushu, where the athletes take all the skill sets and agility that they learn and put it to test in the, I wouldn't call it ring, we call it a platform or lei tai in Wushu.
Final score 9.30. Athlete number 24 into the arena.
As the athlete patiently awaits his score in this men's Nanquan event, currently led by Vietnam athlete Quan Pham with a score of 9.66, leading the field so far, followed by Dmitry Tianov from Russia and Halil Kalasi from Turkey. But we are only a quarter way in this men's Nanquan Taolu event. In the second field of play, we have the men's Jianshu, commentated by our colleagues Anthony and Jivan. And today, this afternoon as well, we have the women's Taijiquan event, or barehand Tai Chi event. Today in our field, we have completed the women's Nangun event and currently witnessing the men's Nanquan, or Southern Fist event.
Bit of judges' calibration going on. We'll stand by for their score.
Final score, 6.7.
The final score is 6.72. And really, you see a majority of the deductions coming from the incompletion of his difficulty components. Next up, we have our competitor from Macau. This is Wai Kong Chiao. Yesterday, Wai Kong was a, I believe, top 12 athlete in the Nanquan event.
He's our gold medalist from the 13th World Championships in compulsory Nanquan.
And as we know, this year there's no more compulsory components. All routines are optional routines, meaning that the entire routine is choreographed by the athlete and their coach, but comprising of mandatory movements and difficulty components, whereas the compulsory in prior years were identical routines by all athletes in competition. Opening sequence. We saw the mandatory elbow strike there, leading into the first difficulty, which is a 540-degree outside kick rotation, followed by an inside 540-degree kick, and a series of 360-degree kicks, followed by a snap kick into a single leg balance. So the basic movements required in Nanquan choreography. A standing inside kick. And you see why the judges will stress that single butterfly stance landing so much. It is because it is the preferred landing for a majority of the difficulty components in Southern style. Whereas the main requirement being that the leg is flush with the carpet and that the heel is flush with the ground. When you're looking at the technical definition of it, is that it is called the Dibo, or the butterfly stance. There is single butterfly stance or double butterfly stance. There's the front inside drop kick.
Final score 9.53.
Final score, 9.53.
Athlete number 26 entered the arena.
Athlete 14 enter the arena.
And the final score for Wai Kong Chiao from Macau is 9.53.
And our next competitor is from Korea, Ha-Sung Lee. There we see his opening combination. Starts out strong. Opening movement.
Back tuck. butterfly stance. Outside 540 rotation. Oh, slight stumble on that horse stance landing there.
Jump inside 540.
So you'll see on those 540-degree difficulty components, typically the movement itself, which is the difficulty, is worth 0.3, and that transition or landing is worth 0.15. So when an athlete makes a mistake on that, that is a costly error of 0.45 in total. But when the athlete completes a rotation but misses the landing, they'll get deducted for just that transitional piece, which is 0.15. So first step for anyone new to Wushu training difficulties is number one, get your rotation, get the height of your kick, and second is nail down that landing.
There we see that back tuck into the butterfly stance. And I believe here's where the stumble comes up. Missed it. Really good choreography, good combinations. But again, at this level, you just can't afford any errors. Hassan Lee's final score, 9.16. We see the deduction for a loss of balance in the A judge's score, and then 2 deductions in his difficulty movements.
That's right. One is for that transition in his outside 540, and the second was for his final difficulty transition. Our next competitor in this men's Nanquan event, this is Yuma Block from Belgium.
Yuma's opening jump outside of 540 into a horse stance landing. Jump inside, and there you see he landed on his feet and then went down into that butterfly stance. You cannot do that. You must land in that butterfly stance, so that'll cost him points.
Final sequence in Yuma's form. So we typically use those terms interchangeably in Wushu competition, whether it is Taolu, the Mandarin term, which is defined as routine, or we often call it forms. And we see the equivalent in other martial arts, such as the kata in karate. These are all taking the movements in the martial art, putting them together into a routine. So athletes or practitioners are able to train on their own, train their speed, put together these movements and combinations, and develop their skill and technique in an individual manner. But in Wushu competition, they take that up a notch by really challenging the physical limits of the athlete, by adding those difficulty components and really being technical on the requirements of those strikes and punches.
Athlete number 28 into the arena.
We are roughly down 15 athletes in a total lineup of 57 men in this men's Nanquan event. Yuma's final score, 7.85.
And next up, we have our athlete from Sri Lanka.
Prabhath Mudiyansalage.
Athlete number 17 enter the arena.
I'm sorry, and there's a correction. Our next competitor is actually from the Netherlands, Xiaobo Tang.
So there was a slight change or a dropout in one of the athletes. Opening combination, leading to his first difficulty component. Front jump kick into single leg balance.
Jump outside 540. There was a slight stumble in that landing.
There's inside 540 into butterfly stance. So not only are you comparing, I guess, the degree of difficulty, but as well the execution of that difficulty. The speed of the rotation, the strength in the kick, the height of the kick, and that's where we'll be able to compare some of the top athletes in this sport.
Final score 8.66. Athlete number 29 into the arena. Final score 8.76.
Xiaobo Tang's final score, 8.76.
And next up on this start list is our athlete from Mauritius, I believe. Sorry, my apologies. It is our athlete from Morocco. This is Mohamed Ragoui.
Here we see his opening. Back tuck. Little bit of loss of balance on the landing.
So outside jump kick. Not sure if that was supposed to be a 360 or 540. If it was 540, it was clearly short on the rotation.
That's right, and a requirement of competition is athletes must submit a write-up, essentially denoting where their difficulties will be executed. Many times athletes will have to denote the degree of rotation that they have to execute. Many times they may denote a lower degree of difficulty or a lower degree of rotation, but actually execute a larger degree to ensure that there's no chance that they're going to get deducted. Under rotation of any technique, of course, would mean that they would not be granted the points for that movement.
Nor for their transition. So the degree of rotation is the most important aspect of the difficulty component.
Final score 9.47.
There we see that back tuck, and again, that slight stumble there. Jump outside 540, no issues on his landing. Final score for Muhammad, 8.53.
Athlete number 30, enter the arena. Athlete number 19, enter the arena.
And our next competitor is from Australia, Shane Cedric. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance.
There's an inside 540-degree kick. And usual is the series of 360, followed by a back tuck. Coming up to the final sequence of Shane's routine. Several of the required stances, that being the drop stance, or low stance you call it, and the empty stance, or sometimes known as the can't stance in the martial arts.
There we see his jump outside. Now, of course, in contrast to the other events you saw in the earlier days, the stances in the southern events don't require to be as, or they're not required to be as low as, per se, Changchuan or in any of the other weapon events.
That's right. In the northern events, there are several requirements. For example, in a horse stance, you're looking at having your back straight. You're looking at your thighs being parallel with the ground, your heels being down to the floor, and that your knees are open enough so that your stance is not too big or small. But whereas in the southern events, there is less requirement on the height. So you do not get deducted for the height of your stance.
And Shane's final score, 9.51.
Very good score. Did not get deducted for any of his Group A nor Group C components. So that 9.51 puts him into 8th place ranking.
And our next competitor is from Belgium, Frankie Pettit.
Final score 8.56.
And the final score for Frankie Pettit, 7.80. Next up, we have an athlete from Germany. This is Chenfan Li. And on the other floor, I see that they are beginning the women's Taijiquan or Taichi barehand event. And one of the differences, you'll start hearing in the background, the Taiji events are accompanied by music, which really increases the drama, so to speak, and the presentation of those graceful and elegant routines. They are the only routines in Wushu Taolu competition which allows or is accompanied by music. Kind of makes it like you're watching an action movie.
That's right.
In slow motion.
Athlete number 22 at the arena.
So here we are, next up, Chenfan Li from Germany.
Athlete 1 into the arena.
There we see a setup for his first difficulty technique. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance, slight stumble. Jump inside into a gainer. Now from this angle, we can see a heel up. It'll be interesting to see if the judges count that. Based on what we saw in yesterday's Southern events, that was an emphasis or at least a deduction that we saw applied to multiple athletes.
It's just a matter of whether the judges who all sit at front panel see the deduction from behind. But there you saw the inside kick again into a butterfly stance landing, and a very clear misstep on that butterfly stance.
Really interesting opening. Jump inside into gainer. There we see that heel up.
And the loss of balance on that landing. Final score is 8.74. 3 deductions on Group A and 3 areas of deduction on his Group C score as well.
I got it. Our current competitor is from Iran, Hussein Rahmani. Jump inside into gainer. Really strong jump, really height. A lot of height on that jump. There we see that tornado drop. There we see that jumping jump outside 720. Unfortunately, there was a slight stumble in that landing. Again, we're starting to see a lot of athletes attempt those C-level difficulties. That's a slight change from previous World Championships. Athletes are able to apply for C-level difficulties and obtain full points. Of course, by taking those higher risk difficulties, you do risk being deducted higher or losing more points. Final score for Hussein, 8.89, and we do see the loss of that difficulty in addition to being penalized for that loss of balance with a 0.1 deduction in his Group A score. And our next competitor is from Spain, Francisco Matzuecos. Jump inside 540 into Diebu.
And there you have the performance by Francisco from Spain. Inside 540, butterfly stance, slight movement on that back heel. And you see that inside drop kick. A lot of athletes having a bit of issue with bouncing on that movement, but it is not a mandatory deduction. But his final score is 9.09, a 0.1 deduction for loss of balance, and missing out on, I believe, 2 transitions.
And one of our all-time favorite athletes, Michele Giordano from Italy.
Very nice opening sequence, leading up to an outside kick, followed by that inside jump kick, front somersault, and into an inside 540 butterfly stance landing. And I see some similarities, and several athletes, I believe, take that route where you see in their, whether it's their long weapon or their short weapon or bare hand form, there is a very similar sequence of movements that they demonstrate. You saw Michele in his, he did that same unique outside jump kick into a drop, which is not a difficulty component, but his own unique type of move. You saw that in both his Nangun and in today's hand form.
Yeah, that's right. As athletes continue to improve all over the world, it's all about maximizing your training time. And if you're able to duplicate similar movements within your routines, the more efficient and quicker that you can progress through your training and be able to execute them at a high level. Michele Giordano's final score, 9.58. Strong performance, good for putting him at 5th place currently.
And next up, we move on. We're just about at the halfway mark. There's a 27th athlete on our list, Mohammed Ben Gadari.
Final score 9.09. Athlete number 3, enter the arena.
And on deck, we will follow this performance by Adriano da Silva from Brazil, and then Philip Wong from Canada. Total of 57 athletes here in this men's Nanquan division. finishing up his final sequence. There's a support required on his landing there. That'll definitely both hurt his A and C score. So really, for the veteran athletes, it's about getting perfect scores on A and Group C judging. And for the newer athletes, it's important to really set that as a goal. So you see the final score for Mohammed is 8.20. Several deductions on his Group C requirements and as well on his Group A. And next up we have Adriano da Silva from Brazil.
Another long-time World Wushu Championships competitor and Pan American champion.
That's right, and he's been competing for a number of years. This being, I believe, either his third or fourth World Championship. There's a big backflip into a double butterfly stance landing.
Jump outside 540 into a horse stance. Jump inside into gainer.
Front gainer. Oh, a slight lean on that.
You see his heel was up.
Here we have Adriano completing the final sequence to his routine. Inside drop kick. And I know Adriano, he does a lot of traditional martial arts, and he tends to put a lot of those traditional movements in terms of animal strikes and blocks into his routine, which creates a bit of a uniqueness to his very own style.
Final score 9.60.
Philip.
Athlete number 4 into the arena. Final score 9.12.
Adriano's final score, 9.12.
Two deductions.
You see that loss of balance, and then for the butterfly stance, for the heel being lifted up.
And next up is my very own athlete from Canada. This is Philip Wong in the men's Nanquan event.
So Alan, I'll ask you now, is it worse for the athlete or is it worse for the coach?
I think it's a bit of each. You gotta, as a coach, you gotta trust the athlete and hope that they're prepared for it. But the one thing you can't control as a coach too much is their nerves. So you're hoping that they really end up giving their best performance, and that's all you can ask.
Well said.
That's his back tuck into a butterfly stance. Outside 540 into a horse stance. And his inside jump kick into butterfly stance. Followed by a 360 combination.
Really strong landings.
And here you see some of those mandatory strikes and block combinations. And a 360 inside jump kick. Leading into the third section of the routine. And as I mentioned before, in Wushu competition, there is a minimum requirement that you must have a difficulty component in no less than 2 consecutive sections of your routine. So athletes will tend to always have a difficulty in both their opening and at least in their section 3. Here he is in his final combination.
Really strong performance, solid landings.
But in this field of 57, we just really look at the top 12 from yesterday and today probably even the top 16 competitors. Very, very, very strong.
We await Philip's score.
And a very good score, 9.44. And that one deduction for that heel, the butterfly stance, that was most likely on that inside 360 that was facing the judges. And they are very, very strict on that requirement.
And our next competitor is from Afghanistan, Ibram Jamshid.
So as a coach, I think, I hope Philip was happy with that performance.
I would be. That was a very strong performance, particularly in a field of calibers of this athlete. That is a strong score. Here we see Ibram set up for a backflip to his butterfly stance. Into a jump outside. And into a jump inside. I believe that was a 540 with a slight stumble and under rotation.
Like to say hello to some of our friends here in Russia. I know Daria is looking at us from somewhere. In all the years of men's Nanquan competition, I can attest, Mario, I think this year the field of competition is really at its highest pinnacle so far.
I've never seen the Nanquan event rival the Changchuan event in overall number of competitors.
And as well in the quality. I think that's even more of a statement to make, that just the quality of the competitors is just phenomenal this year in the men's division.
Yeah, from what we saw yesterday, it was this very stiff competition getting into that top 5.
And it is something to strive for as an athlete, that you look at the overall quality of your division, regardless of the number of participants. Like I mentioned, in this Nanquan event, I think it's a feat for anyone to even break the top 12.
Yeah.
Athlete number 5, enter the arena.
Remember, please join us on our YouTube channel. And most of you, I assume, are. It's still early morning in North America. But we are on YouTube channel, IWUF space Wushu. Streaming live from the 14th World Wushu Championships in Kazan, Russia. And we are witnessing the women's Taijiquan, or bare hand routine, and the men's Nanquan Southern Fist routine.
Ibram's final score was 7.38, and we have Mexico currently performing Lincoln Rodriguez. There we see Lincoln performing a jump outside 540 into a horse stance, jump inside into butterfly stance, and a backflip into a butterfly stance. Solid jump so far. Now, Alan, we're just over the halfway mark, but we still have some of our top competitors from all over the world. Farshad Arabi is up in a few athletes. We have Po Wei Lai from Taipei, Youngmun Lee from Korea. And it looks like we have a competitor from China, Jianming Li, also.
That's right. They are still our gold medalists from yesterday's Nangun event, and as well our bronze medalist, and of course, can't wait to see the highly ranked competitors from China in this men's Nanquan Southern Fist event. Very, very strong performance by the Mexican athlete, Lincoln Rodriguez. However, a few deductions on his difficulty components. His final score, 8.96.
Up next from Egypt, we have Abdelrahman Khaireldin. The opening jump, backflip into a butterfly stance. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance. Jump inside into a butterfly stance. There we see some of the technical requirements.
And you can hear in the background the music going for the women's Taijiquan event. As I mentioned, the Taiji events are the only ones in Wushu Taolu competition that accommodate with music in the background. Whereas the Nanquan really displays its uniqueness by having the yells and the screams of the southern style of Chinese martial arts.
And that was Abdelrahman from Egypt. We'll stand by for his score.
And following him will be athletes from Latvia. This is, it will be Ingus Ars, followed by Iranian champion Farshad Arabi. Final score for the athlete from Egypt, 8.98. And leading up to the final combination of his routine, this is Ingus Ars from Latvia.
As we await for a score, I see the next competitor, Farshad, preparing on the sidelines.
You saw the loss of balance on one of his landings from the difficulty movements.
That hand down will cost them definitely a couple of points.
In the background, we see the women's Taijiquan event going on.
Ingus's final score, 7.05. We see a couple of deductions for losses of balance, the hand down.
And of course, on his difficulty components and incompletion of quite a few movements there. Next up, we have Farshad from Iran.
Alan, the Iranian team has fielded a very strong team the last couple of World Championships.
That's correct, and each year, their system of Wushu, we see they have several new athletes. Farshad is one of their veterans. He's competed for quite a number of years. Their national champion and as well a world medalist. Very nice inside jump kick. Front somersault combination, inside 540, back tuck, butterfly stance landing, and a standing inside 360. Takes a lot more power to do that standing jump kick than it is with the run. And he has good speed, strength in his blocking and striking technique. And this is one of the differentiating factors with the top athletes. You see their energy sustained throughout their routine. As he heads into his final section or combination of his form. Still maintaining good energy. Well done. That's Farshad Arabi from Iran. He was in our top, I believe at least top 10 competitors from yesterday. Very, very close field of competition. Today, we believe you're going to need at least a 9.6 to be in that top 3. And we'll see where Farshad ranks.
Looks like so far Vietnam is holding strong at first place. Quoc Can Pham with a 9.66.
And Farshad does it. He moves into second place with a 9.64. Which places him slightly behind our leader, who has 9.66. But as we mentioned, still several high-performance Nanquan athletes to go. Next
up is a competitor from Nepal, Deepak Hamal. There we see a slight loss on that jump outside.
And there's that front somersault gainer into a back tuck or back somersault, and just couldn't hold that landing there. So that's what we call a code 70, or a sway of the upper movement of the body.
That's Deepak Kamal from Nepal.
And here's a treat coming up. Next up will be our gold medalist from yesterday's Nanquan event, Po Wai Lai from Taipei. Definitely as well one of the favorites for medal contention here in today's Nanquan event.
Final score 9.06. At the number 36, Captain Arena. Final score 9.58.
So here he is. This is Po Wai Lai from Chinese Taipei. Yesterday's gold medal recipient in the Nanquan Southern Staff routine. Strong start. You can look at the strong shifting and speed of the stances. Great transition into the outside 540. There's the inside front somersault combination and back tuck.
Very precise on all of his landings.
Exactly, and viewing this live, we really see the difference and understand why he was a gold medalist in yesterday's event. His landings are precise, solid, zero movement. There's the front inside jump kick. Entering the final few combinations of his routine, inside drop kick into the final section or sequence. Required bow stance, empty stance, and his finale. Great routine by Po Wai Lai. We'll see how he adds on top of his spectacular performance from yesterday. Very solid landing. Great speed and accuracy. You see the elbow strike. As he awaits a score. We have completed 36 of 57 athletes on this men's Nanquan Southern Fist field at the 14th World Wushu Championships here in Kazan, Russia. This is the third day of competition.
And of course, stay tuned. Immediately following men's Nanquan will be the medal ceremonies for today's Taolu events,
which includes the men's Jianshu, women's Taijiquan, and in this field, the women's Nangun and men's Nanquan.
And we have Poe Lai's final score, 9.63, just shy, placing him in third overall at the moment. And our next athlete is from the Netherlands, Arlene Gerrits. There you see him set up for his first difficulty jump. Jump outside into a horse stance, bit of a loss of balance there. Backflip into butterfly stance, and it's hard to see Alan from this angle, but he may have stepped outside of the carpet, which is a significant deduction.
Final score 9.56. Athlete number 9 into the arena.
On deck, we have Yi Randall Lim from Singapore. He is athlete number 38 of 57.
Bit of calibration going on with the judges' score.
And the final score for Arlene from the Netherlands is 7.72.
Next competitor from Singapore is up, Yi Randall Lim. And again, one of our younger competitors, we saw a strong performance yesterday from him, Alan. See him set up for his opening jumps. Jump outside 540 into horse stance. Jump inside into a jump front kick with a single leg balance. Really huge jumps. Jump inside 540 into butterfly stance. Jump inside 360 into a horse stance. Might have lost a little bit of balance there. It's going to be hard to tell if the judges will deduct for that. Strong performance from Singapore.
That's Randall Lim.
Here we see his opening sequence. You just see the height on his jumps. Solid landing there on that single leg balance.
540, outside 360, but a slight sway on his upper body there.
Final score 9.43.
Final score for Randall Lim, 9.43, and we see that deduction for that loss of balance.
Attempt number 29, enter the arena. Final score 9.57.
Up next is a competitor from the United States,
Is that-
Brandon Chan.
Brandon Chen from, what part of the U.S. is he from, Mario?
I believe he's from Chicago,
The Windy City.
the Windy City. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance.
Front jump kick into a single leg balance.
Now there may have been some stumbles on some of those connection moves. We'll have to see how the judges score this.
This is Brandon coming up to the final sequence of his routine here. And you see in Nanquan, the Southern style, you'll see more often than not that traditional martial arts salute to finish off the routine.
There we see that jump outside.
Athlete number 10.
Lost a little bit of balance there. We'll have to see if the judges give it to him. Brandon Chan's final score, 9.13, and it looks like they definitely deduct that connection move. In addition to 2 deductions, one for a loss of balance,
Attempt number 40, enter the arena.
and then an additional deduction for kicking below shoulder level. Our current competitor up is from Hong Kong, Chukhui Long.
Yesterday, again, he was one of the top 10 athletes in the male Nangun event. Nice back tuck into a butterfly stance, followed by an outside 540 into a horse stance. Inside 540 butterfly, slight movement of the heel. Not sure if the judges caught that one. Inside drop kick.
Overall strong performance, but as we saw, any minor deduction in this group, particularly with such a field of strong competitors, will really drop you in the rankings.
It is almost a good way to understand the scoring is really you see the top ranked athletes have all scored 9.6 and they've achieved that with 0 deductions in either of their A technical components or their difficulty components. Then the second range of opponents have really been those that have performed well, scoring 9.5s and still not achieving any deductions. And then there's the following next tier of athletes who scored well, but had maybe 1 or 2 deductions in their A component difficulties. So here you see Chukhui Leung scoring 9.50. He had a good B score of 2.6, which would have brought him to 9.6, but had a deduction for his butterfly stance. Next up, we have Dvorj from Armenia. Inside drop kick.
Final score 9.00.
That's Gevorg Yeritzian from Armenia. Slight slip there.
He slid out his front foot on that landing there. But you also see, in terms of the basic movements, whether or not the athlete is fully extending or completing the strikes and attacks in his punches and blocks and strikes. And that definitely reflects on his B score.
Final score for Gevorg, 8.29.
And next up, we have Daniel Hui from the United States. Nice transition into a back tuck single butterfly stance. Inside 540-degree kick, followed by a inside kick, front jump kick, butterfly stance very close to the line.
There we see his closing empty stance. And that's Daniel Hu from the United States. There you see Daniel's jump inside 360 into a butterfly stance.
Inside drop kick.
While we await Daniel's score, don't forget you can also check us out on Instagram at IWF_official. We'll be posting images, interviews, and short clips throughout the week. Of course, you can check out the International Wushu Federation Facebook page at IWF Official. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's IWF Wushu. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll be posting short clips, interviews, and videos throughout the week. Daniel Hu's final score, 9.33. We see an overall Group A score of perfect, 5.0. However, there is a 0.2 deduction in his overall C score with a missed difficulty. Our next competitor is Ivo Arts from Latvia. Jump outside into a horse stance.
Inside jump kick into a front jump kick. However, I'm not sure where that transition went for the single leg balance, Mario.
It looks like there's a couple of missing connections. We'll have to see how this is judged. Again, the athlete may have opted to change his connections.
Final score 6.92. Athlete number 12 into the arena.
There we see that inside drop.
This is Ivo Ars from Latvia.
Ivo Art's final score, 8.42.
Next up, we have our competitor from Korea. This is yesterday's bronze medalist, Youngmun Lee. Today in the men's Nanquan event. Very sharp, precise combination to start off his routine, leading into an outside 540 jump kick. Very slight wobble on that landing. Into an inside kick, front somersault gainer, and outside 360. Inside 540, into a butterfly stance. Inside jump kick, followed by a kip up, leading into his final sequence or combination. Typical routine is made up of 4 sections, equating to approximately 1 minute and 20 seconds. And there we have it. That is our Korean athlete, Youngmun Lee, in the men's Nanquan event.
Really sharp, strong opening.
But
Here we see his jump.
What I've noticed lately is in this event, you see some of the high-performing athletes from yesterday. They've seem to be a little bit more worn down today.
Yeah, that's right.
You even saw that in our gold medalist from Taipei, just not as sharp as yesterday's performance, which got him that gold. So today, let's see how Youngmun Lee scores.
You know, we were talking about that yesterday, Alan. Typically speaking, World Championships takes place over a couple of days, so the events are a little bit more back-to-back. I'm really curious if the delay in from one event to the other is letting that lactic acid build up in athletes' muscles and increasing some of that fatigue.
That's correct. You wonder whether or not that actually helps an athlete by giving him more rest, or actually makes it more difficult because he has to wait for his event. And this year's World Championships, the events were spread out over a 5-day period. So as we see for Youngmun Lee, his score was 9.53. with a deduction for swaying his body, and I believe I mentioned that earlier. I got caught, and that brings him down to 9th place.
Again, that's a strong overall B score of 2.63.
That's correct.
Without that deduction, that would have been a 9.63.
And next up, who do we have, Mario?
That's Jianming Li from China.
He's making his debut at this competition in the men's Nanquan event. starts off with a salute, leading into a drop stance requirement, showing some clarity, speed in the hands, the strikes, the blocks, leading into a 720-degree outside jump kick and a 360-degree inside jump kick, followed by a 520-degree inside jump kick butterfly stance and a 540-degree outside jump kick. So a beautiful sequence, and what's more impressive is really how we put that together with minimal wait time, and it seemed effortless, Mario.
It's sequential. It goes right into the other. No pause, no preparation into the difficulty movement, and high-level difficulties.
And that is really how you can compare, and what distinguishes this elite level of athleticism is the ease of execution. His final empty stance. And there it is. Men's Nanquan by our Chinese competitor, Jianming Li. Nothing short of spectacular in terms of his execution of those difficulties. As we are seeing the replay, 540-degree turn.
Jianming Li's final score, 9.72, overtakes the first place.
A well-deserved score, receiving no deductions on either of his
That overall, Alan, I think that may be our highest score so far of this
It at
event.
least ties it.
Group B, overall score of 2.72. Our next competitor from India, Sajan Lama.
And following him will be Andrei Fetstin from Ukraine. And in the opposite carpet, we have the women's Taijiquan event.
It looks like we have our World Championships Tai Chi competitor from Indonesia, Linswell.
Our reigning world champion. We know she had a bit of a stumble in yesterday's event, but today looking sharp so far. And here's Sajan Lama finishing off his routine here in the men's Nanquan event. He is the 46th athlete of 57.
And of course, we've had a couple of dropouts throughout the event. We're nearing towards the tail end of this division.
Final score 9.67.
And as we heard in the other carpet while we wait for Sajan's score, it sounds like Linswell has taken the first place so far in her division.
That's the inside drop kick. As we wait for the score. And currently our ranking so far has the China competitor Jianming Li in first place with a 9.72, followed by a 9.66 from Quoc Con Pham of Vietnam. And in the bronze medal position currently is Farshad Arabi from Iran. Still to go, we have 10 more athletes approximately in this men's Nanquan event.
Looks like there's a bit of calibration going on. We're standing by for Sajan Lama's final score.
And it is 9.59. Moves him into 8th place. Very good B score of 2.59, but more importantly, as an athlete, 0 deductions in Group A and 0 deductions in Group C.
Places him in the top 8. And this is our competitor from Algeria, Bohamadine Ahmed.
And he'll be followed by Victor Russo of France.
Bit of a stumble there on that horse stance landing.
Some traditional Nanquan techniques. That's the heel kick followed by the nail kick. Double palm strike into an inside 540. Not sure if he landed that rotation on that one though. There's the inside drop kick, nicely done. Followed by a kip up, leading into his final section.
There we see that stumble. And on that jump inside, you can see one leg landed first, then the other. That's going to cost him that difficulty.
We're just about at the final quarter of competitors in this event. The final score for Algeria is 7.39.
And here is our competitor from France, Victor Russo.
He is the 49th competitor in this field of 57.
Victor's opening jump, backflip into a Diebu.
Front jump kick into a front somersault with a single butterfly stance landing. Outside 540, but a stumble on that landing, which is going to cost him. Downward strike, leading into mid-range blocks. This is a dragon stance combinations, leading into an inside drop kick.
Here nears the end of his form. And his closing. Victor Russo from France. There we see that backflip. It looks like he landed on standing up first and then went down. And then that second stumble.
And coming up next, we'll have Jens Cressens from Belgium. His final score, 8.73.
Our next competitor from Belgium, Jens Cressen. We're down to our final 7 competitors for the men's Nanquan event. Jump inside 360 into a horse stance landing.
Those of us, or those of you in North America waking up this afternoon, I know it's a Sunday, but we're live here at the 14th World Wushu Championships in Kazan, Russia. We have in the Taolu events, the women's Taijiquan, and as well the men's Nanquan event. We're live feeding off of YouTube and streaming this. This is Mario Martinez and myself, Alan Tang. Please join us, and again, also tag us on Instagram and as well Facebook at International Wushu-Official. And we see we're up or down to the final few competitors in the men's Nanquan. Next up will be Zhenhua Huang from Macau, and on the first carpet will be our very own competitor from Canada. That will be Wei Jen Lee. We wish her the best of luck. Right now we're waiting for the final scores for the Belgium competitor, which comes out to 8.39 for Jens Cressens. So on the carpet right now is Zhenhua Huang from Macau, a very good competitor from yesterday's Nangun.
Very sharp opening. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance landing. Backflip into a butterfly stance. Jump inside into the backward somersault.
Some of the basic blocks and strikes in Nanquan.
Again, that's Junhua Huang from Macau.
In the men's Nanquan Southern Fist event.
Really sharp opening immediately into a jump outside. That was a very solid performance. We'll have to see if Junhua can actually break into the top 5. While we stand by for the judges' score, be sure to check us out on our social media feeds. We'll be posting interviews, short clips or replays from each day's events,
photos
on IWF_official, on our Facebook page at International Wushu Federation IWF Official, and of course you can always watch live at IWF Wushu on YouTube.
Final
and it
score.
does it. 9.67, breaking into second place. Perfect A score, 5.0. Perfect C score. Overall B score of 2.67.
That changes the first 3 medal positions now. We still have China on top with a 9.72. Macau takes the silver medal position currently at 9.67, followed by Vietnam, Quacan Pham with a 9.66.
Up next is our competitor Sami Mahmoud from Switzerland.
Final score 8.75. Athlete number 17, enter the arena.
Here we have Sami's opening jumps. Jump outside 540 into a horse dance landing. Jump inside into a jump front kick single leg balance. Jump inside 540 into a butterfly stance. And we're down to our final 5 competitors in the men's Nanquan event. Of course, remember to stay tuned. Immediately following this day's event, we'll be going directly into the medal ceremonies.
And that includes the medal ceremonies for women's Nangun, men's Nanquan, and from carpet number 1, we had men's Jianshu and women's Taijiquan.
That's Sami Mahmoud from Switzerland. There we see us jump outside 540 into a horse dance. And that jump inside 540. Sammy's final score, 9.53.
Very importantly, it was fact 0 deductions on Group A and 0 deductions on Group C.
Athlete number 54, enter the arena.
And next up, athlete from Algeria, Najari Amini.
So you jump inside 540 into a butterfly stance.
Inside jump kick, 360 into butterfly stance. Inside drop kick. Into his final few positions or his sequences in his routine. This is Najari Amini from Algeria. We see the back tuck, slight loss of balance.
Final score 9.62.
Najari's final score, 8.31.
Athlete number 55, enter the arena.
And our next competitor from Vietnam, this is Cock Dat Cow. Yesterday had a strong performance in the men's Nangun. And I know his colleague is ranked way up there, currently in the 3rd place medal position. Let's see how he does on his Nanquan routine. Strong opening sequence. Leading into a 720-degree rotation.
Jump inside into a backward somersault.
Outside, 540, but I don't know if he held that landing long enough, Mario.
Yeah, it looks like he was a little off balance.
So that's where you get from balancing your difficulty level versus your execution. Looks great when you nail them, but if you don't execute, it could really hurt your score. Nice inside drop kick. And now we're down to our final 2 competitors.
Very sharp opening there. There we see on his inside to gainer.
Strong landing. But here, nice inside drop kick. And his final score, 9.44. So you see he misses the landing on that inside 540 and a slight deduction for his difficulty component.
4.9 from Group A, 1.9 from Group C.
That would have brought him into, or very close to a bronze medal, would have brought him into a 4th place position, but right now he gets knocked down a few spots because of those deductions there.
Currently on the carpet, Arturo Gallo from Italy. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance. I don't know if he was able to hold on to that landing long enough.
Final score 9.4.
Final score for Arturo Gallo, 9.40.
At number 57 at
And here we have our final competitor from Spain, Jose Colmenero. Opening sequence, setting up for his first jump. Jump outside 540 into a horse stance, light stumble there. Hand down on his jump inside 540.
the final few movements to his routine. That was Jose Caminero from Spain, our final competitor in this men's Nanquan Southern Fist event. Be sure you stay tuned for the medal ceremonies, which will take place.
Final score 8.92.
Its final score 8.92.
Men's matches conclude.
And there concludes the men's Nanquan event,
This concludes
with the gold medal to Jianming Li of China, followed by Junhua Huang of Macau, and the bronze medal to Hoc Pham of Vietnam. But again, Mario, today we witnessed very formidable competition in the men's Nanquan event.
That's right, and if you guys stand by, we will be underway with the medal ceremony shortly. We're going to take a brief pause and we'll be right back with you in a few moments.
Дорогие зрители, дорогие гости нашего чемпионата мира, нас к вам большая просьба задержаться на трибунах, чтобы посмотреть красочную церемонию награждения наших атлетов. Для них это прекрасный и волнительный момент. Разделите церемонию награждения вместе со спортсменами и самыми настоящими чемпионами. Церемония награждения начнется совсем скоро. Medal ceremony will start coming soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, the awarding ceremony of winners will start soon. Дамы и господа, скоро начнется церемония награждения победителей. The next session will start at 7:30 in the evening. Следующая сессия начнется 19:30. Уважаемые зрители, спасибо, что были с нами, и ждем вас после перерыва.
And we're just about to restart the medal ceremonies for today's Day 3 Taolu Championships here at the 14th World Wushu Championships from Kazan, Russia. Mario, what was your take on the performances we saw here today?
It was really great to see these Southern events become highly competitive, almost challenging the number of competitors from Changchuan in level of difficulty and just overall skill, power. I mean, it's becoming very difficult to contend for that top 8 finish.
That's right, and especially particularly in the men's division, we saw some high level performances by at least 12 to 16 athletes.
Yeah, to really break into that top 8, you really have to have an overall solid A score, a perfect A score, and a perfect C score. It's really coming down to that C score, so that B score, I'm sorry. So focusing on your movements, your power, just being the overall all-around package will ensure that you're in top 8. But as we saw, breaking into that top 3 is a feat on its own.
Yes, and we saw the quality of the athletes, particularly for the B score. They really required the speed, the power, and especially in the non-trend, we noticed the endurance of continuation of that speed and power from beginning to the end of their routine.
Yeah, I would say definitely in viewing what we saw today, I would say we saw many top-level competitors getting dinged on maybe 0.1 deductions that brought them significantly down. Just for example, on Diebu landings, keeping that heel down and just ensuring that you have all of your A points at a minimum would require for you to break into that top 8.
And now as we prepare to award the medals in the 4 events that took place on carpet 1 and carpet 2. Where we had the men's Jianshu or straight sword event, and as well the women's Taijiquan bare hand routine event. And on carpet 2 here with us, we had the women's Nanquan and the women's Nangun and the men's Nanquan event. Be sure to also join us tonight for the continuation of the Sanda event, which is the competitive component. Many of our viewers are asking whether or not Wushu has a combat or a contact event where the athletes fight each other, and that is definitely it. That is called Wushu Sanda, or free fighting, where the 2 athletes go on top of a open leitai or mat, and they fight using strikes, kicks, and throws to attain points and to combat against their opponent. But whereas we're here commentating on the Taolu or the non-combative events, where the athletes are challenged in choreography and endurance, agility, and coordination, putting together various styles of striking, kicking, and jump kicking into a 1 minute and 20-second routine, which is a huge challenge and feat on its own.
Alan, it looks like we're getting ready to start our first medal ceremony, and it looks like it is for men's Jianshu. I see our top 3 athletes entering into the stadium.
And we have on the podium 2 Malaysian athletes. Both in the gold and bronze medal positions.
The medals will be presented by Wushu, Executive Board Member of the International Wushu Federation. Flowers, certificates, and mascots will be presented by Azad Karelit, Director General of the Directorate for Sport and Social Projects. Медали вручает Wushu, член исполнительного комитета Международной Федерации Wushu. Цветы, сертификаты и маскоты вручает Азат Кадыров, генеральный директор дирекции спортивных и социальных проектов. Bronze medalist representing Malaysia.
And here we go. First off, the bronze medalist is Waikin Yip from Malaysia, who scored 9.53 in the men's Jianshu event, earning him the bronze medal placing. I believe he was the gold medalist at the Southeast Asian Games recently.
Up next, we have our silver medalist from Korea, Ha-Sung Lee.
Also a multi-time world champion medalist. And we see the continuation of dominance from these veteran Asian athletes, some of whom have just come off of competition from the Southeast Asian Games and continuing their great performances here at the 14th World Wushu Championships.
And our gold medalist in new world championship for men's Jianshu, San Wang from Malaysia with a 9.64. There you have it, your top 3 men's Jianshu athletes.
Дамы и господа, прошу всех встать. Звучит государственный гимн Малайзии.
We'll stand for the Malaysian national anthem.
There we have it. The medalists from the men's Jianshu event here at the 14th World Wushu Championships. And coming up next will be the medalists in the women's Taijiquan event category. And here we await the athletes marching out in the medal ceremonies for the women's Taijiquan bare hand event.
комитета Международной Федерации Wushu. Цветы, сертификаты и маскоты вручает Азат Кадыров, генеральный директор дирекции спортивных и социальных проектов. Bronze medalist representing Japan. Бронзовый медаль.
Our bronze medalist from Japan, Shiho Saito. There we see her receiving her medal. Very strong performances today.
Silver medalist.
The silver medalist going to Can Ly Tran of Vietnam.
And taking home the gold and world champion from Indonesia, Linswell. Now the national anthem for Indonesia. There you have it, your top 3 finalists in women's Tai Chi.
And next up, we will have the women's Nangun medal celebrations.
And there we have our women's Nangun finalists entering the Gymnastics Palace. Fierce competition today, wouldn't you say, Alan?
Definitely. Both the women's and the men's Southern events were highly competitive. And we had great performances by all three medalists, of course. But on top of that, we must commend all of the athletes that competed in these two categories.
The medals will be presented by Sunny Tang, Executive Board Member of the International Wushu Federation. Flowers, certificates, and mascots will be presented by Azad Kadyrov, Director General of the Directorate for Sport.
Here we have the medal presentations. And one of the presenters by the president of Wushu Canada, Sunny Tang.
Very familiar with him.
Very familiar.
Сертификаты и маскоты вручает Азад Кадыров, генеральный директор дирекции спортивных и социальных проектов. Bronze medalist representing Malaysia.
The bronze medalist goes to Malaysia. This is Chong Min Tian. She had a powerful performance in this women's Nanquan event, and as well did very well yesterday in the women's Nanquan.
And Alan, the difference between bronze and silver in this case is separated by a .01. And it all came down to overall performance, that B score.
That's correct. And really what that encompasses is just simply the judges' liking of whether it's choreography, the very minimal difference in expression, power, and speed of the performer, which in the top three are all very at the very highest level of levels.
And there we have our silver medalist from Indonesia, Juwita Nizawasni.
That's right, a former world champion. Again, her specialty, one of the very few women athletes who performed that.
Jump inside to gainer.
That's right.
Double butterfly.
Very difficult, difficulty movement to establish. But here is our world champion this year in the women's Nanquan event from Hong Kong, Jianshu He.
And now we'll stand for the Hong Kong national anthem.
Дамы и господа, прошу всех встать. Звучит государственный гимн Китайской Народной Республики.
And there you have it, the national anthem of Hong Kong, China. And we're off to the final medal presentations, which will be for the men's Nanquan Southern Fist event.
And we stand by for our final medal ceremony of the evening. For men's Nanquan, I can see our athletes preparing to enter into the gymnastics palace. And here we are underway.
Victory ceremony for Taolu, Nanquan men. Церемония награждения 14-го чемпионата мира по Wushu, Taolu, Nanquan мужчины.
We had a total of 57 men's Nanquan competitors, but only 3 can take home a podium finish.
And of course, the story of this event was the stunning performance by Jianming Li of China, who put on a display and execution of really how difficult the components in Wushu should be done.
Certificates and mascots will be presented by Director General of the Directorate for Sport and Social Projects. Медали вручает Jianshu, почетный член исполнительного комитета Международной Федерации Wushu. Цветы, сертификаты и маскоты вручает Азат Кадыров, генеральный директор дирекции спортивных и социальных проектов.
You look at these scores. The top 8 all scoring 9.6 and above, but it came down to those elite athletes, including our 3rd place here, bronze medal winner, Hoc Con Pham from Vietnam.
Silver medalist representing Macau.
And of course, our silver medalist from Macau, Junhua Huang.
And he displayed one of the exact opposites, where his routine was less in terms of the type of difficulty, but he really accelerated in terms of his speed, power, clarity in his routine, and his fundamental movements.
Representing People's Republic of China, золотой медаль и звание чемпиона мира завоевал представитель Китайской Народной Республики Jianming Li.
57 competitors, but only 1 gold medal taken home by our Chinese champion, Jianming Li, for this world's men's Nanquan event. Fierce competition all around, but there's your top 3 podium finishers.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of People's Republic of China.
As we've heard it before, feel like we might hear it again, is the Chinese national anthem.
And let me remind you, on this day of celebration, it is actually not only the 14th World Wushu Championships, but as well, I know there's a big celebration going on in China right now. It is the Chinese National Day celebration coming up.
Ladies and gentlemen, the athletes, дамы и господа, приветствую спортсменов!
And that wraps up our final medal ceremony for the evening. Stay tuned for today's afternoon events. Sanda streaming live to you. Be sure to check out our commentators, Tony Sims and
Robin Black for the combative Sanda competition later on today at 7:30. And happy China National Day as well.
Happy China National Day. This is Mario Martinez.
Alan Tang.
Signing out.